So what we're going to do in today's training is teach you how to overcome and help people who have been defrauded in a sense and have taken out what we call a fraudulent, or you'll hear me use the term clean sheeted final expense policies, where the coverage they have was fraudulently put together, many times by the agent not telling the client exactly what it was that they're qualifying for. This is a great opportunity to help people who have been taken advantage of, to get them better coverage that actually is legitimate. And I'm going to walk you through all the steps of what the most common fraudulently completed applications are in the final expense business, and what steps to take, especially if you're new, to uncover this fraud, show the prospect the fraud itself, and then convince them to buy from you and dump the crap that other agent shuffled on. My name is David DeFord, owner of DeFord Insurance Group, where I teach and train agents and recruit them nationally to sell things like final expense, Medicare, and annuities, both face-to-face and over the phone. Of course, if you like this content, subscribe. If you like this video, like it. Otherwise, let's begin. So what exactly is a fraudulent final expense policy? Easily put, it's when an agent sits down with a prospect. The prospect tells the agent exactly their health to the best of their memory, but the agent doesn't record it like it's heard. Now, sometimes you will get the flip side happen, where the client tells a lie to the agent, or maybe they're both in on the lie, but the actual application, the policy that's issued, does not adequately reflect what the actual truth of the client's health is. And again, most of the times what we see, it's the agent that's behind this fraud, not necessarily the client. It's to their shock or surprise that it actually is. Why is this a problem? Well, if they kick the bucket, especially in the first 2 years, and they're told they have first day full coverage, but they didn't tell the agent about that touch of cancer, or the agent didn't disclose that touch of AIDS. Well, guess what? They're not going to get the full coverage that they're supposed to. And this is just a couple of extreme examples. There's all sorts of conditions that aren't disclosed, that with some companies may have actually been truly a first day full coverage type of policy, that now the client, if they die in that first 2 years and they uncover when they contest the policy and see that there's a litany of health issues, guess what? They don't get the full coverage. They get their money back plus a little interest as parting. And that whole $10,000 or whatever the full coverage that the agent lied about, they don't have. It's a huge consequence to the family, and it's really a huge benefit that you can be aware of this problem, because it is a big problem, and learn what steps to overcome it to better help your clients. So what are the most common examples of fraudulent final expense policies? So again, what we're going to do is tell you what I've seen the most personally as an agent in the field and talked with agents out in the field. And then after this, we're going to tell you how to overcome them, okay, and how to show the client this so that you can replace it. Probably the most common one is when an agent puts down that a client does not smoke when they're sitting there on their second pack of smokes during the interview. They identify on the application that no, they don't smoke, but the client does smoke. Again, in some carriers, some states, if the client dies and they find out that the client does smoke, which is pretty easy to find because most doctor records will show this, they ain't paying. They're going to basically refund the premiums plus interest, not the full coverage if that's what the client was eligible for. Second option, or second thing I see a lot of is cutting corners on height weight guidelines. I had an agent actually, sad to say this, but he was kind of a rogue agent. He had put in a policy with a company many years ago and put down that the woman's height was 5'8" and her weight was 220 or something, which was enough to qualify for level coverage. Well, they did what's called an attending physician statement. They pulled medical records and found out that her actual weight was like 290 and her height was 5'1". Quite the difference, right? And at that height and weight, she wasn't eligible for level coverage. But there are a lot of companies who don't bother to go through this, because a lot of final expense is what we call simplified issue coverage. And all that means is that they take a cursory look at the health information to arrive at a decision. The problem here, again, is that the client died was otherwise healthy, and they found her height weight didn't match at the time that she supposedly represented it, meaning she supposedly said her height weight was this, then what's going to happen is that she's not going to get the full coverage payout to her beneficiaries. And obviously, there are carriers out there, if you're familiar with this business, that don't care about height weight, that have no height weight guidelines. It's not an underwriting factor. So there may have been options for that client, but they got stuck with this crap, and now there's nothing for them. It's terrible. Number 3 is misrepresentations and questions asked. I had a client in Rome, Georgia, who had a policy with a company that I won't mention the company, but the agent basically answered no to all these questions. This dude had COPD, took oxygen, had all sorts of problems, like tons and tons of problems, but somehow still was eligible for level coverage and got it approved. And it turns out that actually not just the agent, but the client was in on the lie. So they're both trying to defraud the insurance company. But this is stuff that happens commonly. Maybe somebody takes oxygen and they just click no on the box to the oxygen question, but you see the giant tank in front of them and the nose thing and the sound of the oxygen in the background. You'll hear that on the phone or in person if you're in this long enough. And the thing is that's going to cause them, if they die early, not to have a full payout. Again, that's the consequences for defrauding insurance companies, is they'll contest the case and then they'll just basically just not pay the claim if they find out that, hey, this should have never been issued. And then the last one here, sometimes I'll see this too, the Veterans Administration doesn't report health claims to the Medical Information Bureau. That's what keeps record of all this stuff. So be very wary of any of your clients that are veterans that use the VA, and always take a double look at their application, because some agents get squirrely and they're like, oh, okay, well, they don't report anything, so we'll just answer no to everything on the application. So you always want to kind of catch that too as well. So these are the most common things that I see in the field. Now let's talk about how to uncover these issues. So first of all, you got to always, it goes without saying, review the policy, okay? So whenever you're sitting down with Mrs. Jones or you're on the phone, go grab your policy, let's take a look at it, just so I know exactly what you're dealing with. When you get the policy, you want to do some things always. Confirm the actual coverage details. What's the coverage say? How much is it a month? Turn over to page 2 or 3 of the sheets. You should see what happens in year 1 and year 2 of the amount of coverage. Is it fully covered? Is it a return of premium? These things are going to be listed in the front of the policy itself. You want to, of course, by some point soon, if you haven't already, confirm what the actual client's health history is, because that's going to become very important as you get into the major thing, which is anytime you review an existing final expense policy, you absolutely need to review the hard copy application, or the copy of the application. That is going to tell you what was inputted at the time of sale. Even if you do an e-app or verbal app, all of that stuff is going to be in the back of the policy. That's required with most states, probably all states, to have a copy of what actually took place at the time of the transaction. And it's within the copy of the application you're going to uncover all of these misrepresentations, because you can look at the smoker question, the height weight question, compare that with the company's height weight guidelines, and then obviously the health questions. For the ones that were answered no, does it actually stack up to what the client's actual health is? And if you uncover something at the time of sale where the client indicates they should have answered differently, and that would have had a completely different underwriting outcome, it is your job to not just tell them it, but it's also your job to show them. Literally, if you're face-to-face, you have this advantage face-to-face. Telesale's a lot harder to do. Grab the policy and say, hey, so you told the agent that you smoke, right? Yeah. Check this out here. Read this question. Have I used tobacco at all in the past 12 months? What does that say, Mr. Prospect? No. So did you tell the agent you smoked or you didn't? No, I told the guy I don't smoke. Or I do smoke. Well, he said you don't. Do you know what the consequence of that is? And we kind of talk about the same things that we mentioned earlier. This is how you convert somebody who may think they don't need your services to realizing, holy crap, I have got a plan that is garbage, and the people I love, if I die, are in deep crap. Okay, this is critical. This is how I've replaced so many policies, because there's a lot of agents, guys, it doesn't stop. It's always going to be like this. Desperate agents that need to make money, that don't care about ethical quagmires like this, that they will stop at nothing because they're so Machiavellian when it comes to making money that they're willing to screw granny, in many cases, to make their buck. So you need to do the world a service and eliminate these bozos out of the business. And again, as much as I preach it up here on YouTube, they ain't going anywhere. But that's what we call inventory for us, because guess what? That's sales for us. That's commissions for us to do the right thing by our clients. So you got to do all this stuff. And it's going to benefit the client tremendously. And this is the process I personally teach my agents to do when we run across fraudulently written final expense plans. And you can immediately take this into the field right now and start helping your people and get them the coverage they deserve, not the coverage that is unwarranted and could potentially harm their family in a really bad way. So I hope this training helps you out in your replacement efforts and helping the people that you see out there getting good coverage. If you like this kind of content, as always, please make sure you subscribe and like the video. If you got comments, leave them below. And if you'd like to learn more about joining my agency and like this kind of training, we do this stuff all the time, guys. You can learn more clicking above or below. It's going to take you to my website to an overview page about joining my agency where you can learn more if it's a good fit. And as always, my name is Dave Duford. Thanks for watching. See you next time.